Hey everybody, welcome back to the weekly Bump and Run segment with Matt Bowen. I'm Sid Rosenberg for OpenSports.com and the National Football Post. A lot of issues to discuss today after an eventful NFL weekend, Matty. Here is Matt Bowen, former NFL safety and featured writer for the National Football Post. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing good. Great weekend of football. A lot of action in the NFC East with my Skins and your Giants. Let's get going.
Yeah, great is probably not the right word today after the Giant effort on Sunday night, but we will get there. Let's get to story number one first, though, Matt. A lot being said about Randy Moss slacking on the field in Sunday's Patriot win over Carolina. You've watched the tape. Do you think that Randy Moss actually mailed it in?
I don't think he mails it in. I just think that's Randy being Randy. I know that sounds super generic to say that, but you know what teams do, Sid, is that they roll a lot of safeties towards Moss. They play some underneath trail man technique. What they're doing is trying to take him out of the game, and they are. But, you know, for Carolina to come out and have those comments post-game just doesn't make any sense. They lost the game. They gave up 100 yards to Welker. They gave up 185 on the ground. I think that is going to be what you're going to get from Moss when he doesn't get the ball, when he knows he's going to get double teamed, he's going to come off the ball, he's going to look lazy. But in that same regard, he's going to make a big play for you down the field regardless for the rest of the season. So I think that depends mostly on opinion. I don't think he took the plays off. I think that was just who he is.
Yeah, Chris Gamble had some comments after the game for Carolina. It's funny, I had a conversation with Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com yesterday, Matt, and he said that the feeling is that Randy Moss wants out of New England, and guess where he wants to go? He's hoping Brett Favre comes back for year number 2 in Minnesota, and the feeling around the NFL is Moss wants to go back to Minnesota and play with Brett Favre next year. How about that?
Well, I mean, if that happens, it'd be fun to watch, obviously. And, you know, I can understand a little bit where it's coming from. We all know he got sent home during the week. And maybe he is. Maybe he's just a sensitive guy. But, I mean, come on. You're playing with Tom Brady. How much better can it get?
Yeah, really. 50 touchdowns a couple of years ago. A frigid December once again here, Matt, for the Dallas Cowboys, and a tough schedule still lies ahead. It looks like that final playoff spot will come down to my Giants and Dallas. Is this the end of the line for Wade Phillips? I think yes. What do you think?
It sure looks like it, Sid. I think Wade Phillips is going to get his walking papers after the season. You know, they got to play New Orleans this Saturday night. They got to play the Skins again. And they got to play Philly again. They could lose all 3 of those games. They really could. They ran the ball better last week. But again, when they lost to the Giants 2 weeks ago, it was big plays. This past week in San Diego, they couldn't score in the goal line. They couldn't score in the red zone. These are little things that you have to do as a football team to win. And you saw them on the sidelines towards the end of the game. They looked dejected. Tony Romo looked dejected. Wade Phillips, looked like Wade Phillips. And this is going to happen again, Sid. And there's going to be major changes again. And plus, look at all those big-name coaches, Sid, Cowher, Holmgren, Shanahan. You know Jerry Jones wants one of them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're right, by the way, and Dallas does lose those last 3. They would end the year 8-8, riding a 5-game losing streak out of the playoffs, and that looks like the likely scenario right now. Fans are jumping for joy in the Bayou, Matt, over the Saints' 13-0 record, and they got a big game coming up, like you said, against Dallas on Saturday. But you say they've been playing just average football lately.
Yeah, they haven't been playing as well, but that's the thing that makes them so good, is they're still 13-0. And, we do this a lot. We look for, dents in the armor of the great teams. We do it with the Colts, too. We do it with the Chargers, even though they're so hot. We look for things that are wrong with them. We look for things to talk about and argue about. But you know what they're doing, Sid, is that they're making the plays late in the game. And one player who's doing it is Jonathan Vilma. Think of going back to Washington 2 weeks ago, made the pick in the 4th quarter. This past week had another pick, had another 4th down stop. And Breeze is always hot. Greg Williams' defense has given up some yards, given up some points in the month of December, but they're making the key plays. So we could talk about them looking average, and I do think they're not playing their best football, but every team goes through a stretch in the season where they have a little slump. The difference is they're in that slump and they're winning. A team like Dallas is in that slump and they're losing.
Speaking of the unbeaten teams here, Matt, most of America's not going to see either one of them have a chance to go to 14-0 this week because Thursday night the Colts play on the NFL Network and Saturday night the Saints play on the NFL Network. I know your guy Mike Lombardi is happy about that, but most of America doesn't get the NFL Network. But regardless, as both of them look to go to 14-0, well, what should be the motivation right now? Should these teams look to finish up perfect like the Patriots did a couple of years ago, or should they be resting their starters to try to get the ultimate goal, the Super Bowl here in Miami, come February?
Well, I think you got to play, Sid. Guys are paid to play. I understand resting your starters, but I also understand that a lot of times we see in the playoffs is these wild card teams, they get so hot. And I think the reason they get hot is because they don't take time off. They're used to a routine. And football players are used to routines. They're used to, a lot of structure in the schedule, knowing where to be at every minute of the day and when you're at the facility. I think if you change that up, you're risking, not that guys get lazy. I don't think there's any player in both those teams that would get lazy, but you risk the chance that, you take a step back, you relax for a minute. And I think when you're relaxed in this league, you get beat. I think you get beat in January doing that. I think going 16-0 would be great. I would have loved it as a player. I think this is an opportunity to keep that rolling. You're going to get the bye week in over wild card weekend anyways. Why not play out the season, then you get that week of rest? So only 1 week instead of 2 or 3 weeks while resting your players, and then go to work again.
I agree with you. In fact, years and years ago, Denver had wrapped up the division very, very early, and Mike Shanahan elected to sit Elway and Terrell Davis and those guys, and they got knocked out in the first game of the playoffs by Jacksonville. The following season, Denver had a big lead. Shanahan let his guys play, and they won a Super Bowl. So Mike Shanahan and Denver, I think, Matt, are the blueprint here for keeping your guys playing, keeping the motivation going right into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to do that, Sid. I think you got to keep this team doing the things you have been doing for 16 weeks. You got to do it.
Agreed. All right, Matty, great job once again. We're going to see you again next week right here on Bump and Run. Looking forward to talking to you again next week. Thank you so much, pal.
All right, Sid. Thank you.
All right, remember, you can also follow Matt on Twitter. He's at MattBowen41 and catch all of his great writing, and it is great, at nfpost.com. For my main man, Matt Bowen, I'm Sid Rosenberg. As always, folks, enjoy the football. We'll see you again next week.